Hello to all my Trampions. I am the Tramp, and you are watching Too Late to Sleep here on Trampionship Wrestling. This is our weekly wrap-up show where we talk about the week in wrestling news. Our top story this week, and really our only real story this week, after not covering it last week for once, is once again about TNA. TNA's senior producer of creative and talent development, Billy Corgan's lawsuit against the company had a number of documents unsealed this week after hearing, and went from the position of savior, keeping the company afloat, to a vulture trying to feast on a corpse real quick. I don't think this needs to be said, but I'll lay it out as a disclaimer anyway. I'm not a lawyer. But from how it looks, Billy Corgan gave 3 loans to Dixie Carter and TNA. Impact Ventures, whatever name you want to go by. He gave them 3 loans. It's not clear if the first 2 were paid back yet from what I've seen, but on the 3rd loan there was a tie-in to it that if the company went insolvent, which means its liabilities outweighed its assets, if it became insolvent, then he would gain Dixie Carter's voting shares in the company, which is 92.5%. So what it looks like is, for the cost of a taping, which could be wrong, but is what it sounds like that 3rd loan was for, he gets 92.5% of the company, which sounds shady as hell to me. Meanwhile, Dixie Carter's attorneys are arguing that such an agreement is illegal. So that doesn't paint her in the best light, because it basically says that she made this agreement, took the loan, knowing that she wasn't going to have to pay the consequences of it when she ended up failing to stay solvent. So you got this side not looking good, this side not looking good. It doesn't look good for anybody. Everybody's coming out of this smelling like crap. Meanwhile, the wrestlers are just trying to wrestle. Wrestling fans are just trying to watch. And none of it might be able to happen. But keep an eye out for final deletion. Fortunately, that's pretty much everything that was big this week, was just that one big story. But we do have Hell in a Cell coming up. So let's get into the predictions. We have a kickoff show match between Cedric Alexander, Lince Dorado, and Sin Cara versus Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, and Arya Daivari. No setup for that whatsoever. It's just a showcase match for the Cruiserweight division that we saw Sin Cara added to. The other 5 are coming from the CWC. We've seen a little bit of them on TV, but no real story development for any of them, no character development. We don't really know who they are yet. So there's really not a big story reason for one team or the other to win. So I'm going to call it for Cedric, Lince, and Sin Cara, because I think Cedric's got a little bit higher upside than the other guys. Lince Dorado's got a pretty good upside too, although he might just end up getting stuck with Sin Cara as Lucha Dragons 2.0. I don't know, but I think the faces are going to take that one. We have Bayley versus Dana Brooke. I think obviously Bayley has the bigger potential long term than Dana, but I think she also can afford the loss a little bit more, especially if Dana ends up cheating to win, which I think is what's going to happen. I think Dana's going to take a dirty win that Bayley ends up looking better in the long run for, so that's how that turns out. We got Enzo and Big Cass versus Gallows and Anderson. Gallows and Anderson should have took home the tag team championships last month. They didn't. I'm going to say that they're going to go ahead and take this victory, but the feud is not over. We've got the tag team championship match with the New Day versus Sheamus and Cesaro. I don't think that the New Day went through Gallows and Anderson just to lose right now, especially with them coming up on Demolition's record as longest reigning tag team champions. So I think New Day takes this. But again, I don't think the feud is over. I think Sheamus and Cesaro end up with another shot at, maybe not at Survivor Series, but near it. TJ Perkins versus Brian Kendrick. I'm going to repeat my prediction from last show that ended up being incorrect then, so it's probably going to be incorrect this time, but I think Kendrick ends up taking the belt and is the new monster heel that the rest of the division tries to dethrone. Roman Reigns versus Rusev. I can still remember back at WrestleMania 22 when this all started. I'm hoping that this finally sees an end. And it doesn't see an end if Rusev wins, because then Roman gets his automatic title rematch. So I think Roman wins it. I think we're going to have a great match. I think it's going to be a lot like his match against Bray Wyatt at last year's Hell in a Cell, which was really good. I think we're going to see a lot of the same things there in a good way. So Bray Wyatt not going to be involved, even though he was involved last year in both main events without being in them. But Rusev is going to lose. Roman Reigns moves on to the next contender. No idea who that's going to be. Similarly, I think the Owens-Rollins feud ends so that they can start transitioning to the next stage in the Owens-Jericho story. And for that to happen, Rollins has to lose. Probably not going to lose clean. I think Chris Jericho gets involved. I think it's very possible that he somehow gets into the cage to help out. But Kevin Owens wins. Chris Jericho gets involved. And I think what would be very interesting is if Chris Jericho's involvement somehow damages the integrity of the cage, the cell, and if, and I'm not saying they will, but if the women go on last, now they have to deal with that broken cell in their main event. Kind of like at Vengeance a few years ago when Mark Henry and Big Show broke the ring on a superplex, and then the main event, the last man standing match, had to go on with the ring broken. We haven't seen that happen since they started to introduce Hell in a Cell as a pay-per-view with multiple Hell in a Cell matches. I think this year would be a good year for them to do it. Not saying they're going to, but it'd be neat. Now, as far as that match between Charlotte and Sasha Banks, it breaks my heart to say this, because I'm a huge Charlotte fan. I think she should win, but I don't think she will. I think it's time for this feud to end, and I think the feud only ends if Sasha wins. And she's got to win clean. She's got to win to where Charlotte doesn't have a justified reason for a rematch. So I think Sasha Banks ends up looking like $1 million So I think Sasha Banks ends up looking like $1 million at the end. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Too Late to Sleep. I just got the new end card feature on YouTube, so we're going to try some things right about here. You should have some videos that I put together using WWE 2K17 that will be simulations of the Hell in a Cell matches. And right here, you're going to see a video that YouTube thinks you will like out of my videos, because they're just that creepy. And then somewhere in here, you'll see my handsome smiling face. Click on that to subscribe. And at some point, hit the like button. Let YouTube know that you like my videos. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. As always, I've been the Tramp. Cheers.